Welcome on board the Newstrack. I'm Rahul Kanwal. After Khela Hobe in West Bengal, can there now be Khela Hobe at the national level? Will Mamata Banerjee be able to emerge as the fulcrum of opposition unity in the next general elections? That's my top focus on the Newstrack.
Mamata Banerjee on Mission 2024 in Delhi. Didi declares Khela Hobe India. Mamata Banerjee calls for unity to defeat the BJP. Will it be Mamata versus Modi in 2024? Is Mamata the rallying point for opposition? That's our top focus on Newstrack.
Mamata Banerjee has declared that it is now Khela Hobe across India. Didi is in Delhi on a two-day visit, and it's her meeting with opposition leaders that's setting political temperatures soaring. She first met Congress President Sonia Gandhi and then Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. The West Bengal Chief Minister's message is clear. Didi wants to rally opposition parties to take on Prime Minister Modi and the BJP in 2024. Can she do it?
Mamata Banerjee is a woman on a mission. Mission 2024. And she got down to business straight after landing in Delhi. Her meetings with Congress President Sonia Gandhi and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal have set the political temper soaring about a possible anti-Modi front in the making.
We discuss the political situation in general, and also we discuss about Pegasus to COVID situation, and also we discuss about the unity of the opposition. देखिए बीजेपी को हराने के लिए सबको एक होना जरूरी है. हम अकेला कुछ नहीं है, सब एक साथ में मिलके काम करना पड़ेगा.
Several opposition MPs also met Didi, who went to Parliament's Central Hall. On Thursday, keeping up with her 2024 mission, Mamata is all set to meet NCP Chief Sharad Pawar as well. On Monday, a protocol meeting with the Prime Minister aside, the West Bengal Chief Minister also met with senior Congress leaders P. Chidambaram, Anand Sharma and Kamal Nath.
हमने कोई रणनीति की बात नहीं करी, कोई रणनीति की बात नहीं करी, वो हमारी नेता करेंगी, पर हमने देश में आज क्या स्थिति है, आज महंगाई, आज कानून व्यवस्था, आज ये दबाने और छिपाने की राजनीति, ये राजनीति पर आवश्यक बात करी है.
Mamata Banerjee is turning out to be the rallying point for opposition unity. While 2024 Lok Sabha polls are still 3 years away, Uttar Pradesh and Punjab elections will be crucial. And with her Bengal victory, Mamata has now shown that BJP can be defeated.
This will be decided by the people of this country in future course. But people of the country is having the confidence on Mamata Banerjee that because of his fighting character, uncompromised attitude, and last election, Narendra Modi has got his best lesson of his political career in 2021 when he has been defeated by Mamata Banerjee.
The Congress TMC bonhomie has been the highlight of Didi's Delhi visit. While the Congress allied with the left against Mamata in the Bengal elections, it couldn't manage to win even a single seat. Now, Mamata seems to have understood that an opposition alliance would be incomplete without the Congress, because it is still the main opposition party when it comes to national politics. So will it be Mamata and the rest versus Modi in 2024? Didi has already declared Khela Hobe.
From Snoop Gate to price rise to farmers' agitation, the opposition seems to have united on these issues to corner the Narendra Modi government. Can Mamata Banerjee be the national face of this opposition unity? For now, it seems like a real possibility. With camera person Ashok Bhanot, Polami Saha in Delhi for India Today.
Mamata has declared India Hobe for 2024, trying to unite the opposition. But cracks have begun to show already. The Trinamool Congress today did not participate in the opposition protest in Parliament on Snoopgate. Through the years, Mercurial Mamata has had a very uneasy relationship with the Congress party. Can these two outfits set their differences aside to take on Modi in 2024?
Didi in top gear towards 2024. Bristling with energy, she is being buzzing between Delhi's power centres. Each stop adding to her aspired image as an anti-Modi warrior queen. But amidst her explicit Khela Hobe to the BJP government at the centre, the enduring frictions with her former party are more than clear. For starters, the Trinamool conspicuously stayed away from Rahul Gandhi's meeting of opposition parties on Tuesday night. More substantially, Mamata's party, which has been most vocal on the Pegasus Snoopgate scandal, was visibly absent from the joint adjournment motion moved by Rahul Gandhi along with her opposition leaders. And most visibly, there was no Trinamool at Rahul Gandhi's high-voltage opposition press conference today in front of Parliament. It is clear that Mamata, fresh from a historic state election victory, doesn't see the Congress as anywhere near an equal. But ever the practical politician, she is aware that opposition unity needs a generous measure of compromise. And that's why, despite the snub to Rahul Gandhi and Congress in Parliament, she has met a series of leaders in the last 24 hours, from Sonia Gandhi to P. Chidambaram. Remember, Mamata ditched the Congress in 1997. She has previously served as a central minister as part of the UPA coalition. But relations with the Congress has never been peaceful, frequently seeing ferocious flare-ups. In the 2021 elections too, the Congress's alliance with the left in Bengal validated Mamata's political fury. Sonia Gandhi has understood this scenario, and Mamata too understands that without the Congress, an opposition front cannot be completed. 2024 is 3 years away, but the journey has begun to rumble. Bureau Report, India Today.
She led Team Trinamool to victory in the Khela Hobe of Bengal. Can Mamata Banerjee now do the same Khela Hobe against the BJP in the national political contest? Can she be the fulcrum of opposition unity, or is this a stillborn idea? Joining me on this broadcast, representing the Trinamool Congress government in West Bengal, its spokesperson Bishwajit Deb, squaring off against him, representing the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party at the centre, its IT cell chief Amit Malviya. For perspective, I'm joined by Rajdeep Sardesai, who had an opportunity to spend some time with Mamata Banerjee during her capital visit, as also Jayanto Ghoshal, who's been following her politics very closely. Last but not least, we have Rajat Sethi. I want to go across to Bishwajit Deb first for why the Trinamool believes that Mamata Banerjee is the ideal opposition captain in the Khela Hobe of 2024. You won in West Bengal, where the BJP was historically weak, but facing Narendra Modi at the centre in 2024 is a whole different ballgame. Why do you believe, Mr. Deb, that Mamata Banerjee is up for the fight and that she can beat Team Modi?
Well, good evening to all. I would like to categorically mention that 2021 election was under the leadership of Mamata Banerjee, and we could see during that particular election Team Modi, including Mr. Narendra Modi, Mr. Amit Shah, they were all daily passengers, and they used to come daily. Now, in spite of their daily visit, which rose the COVID upsurge, ultimately the people of Bengal handed over them a humiliating defeat, and they had to return from Bengal empty-handed. Now, after this particular result, you see, the entire opposition in India, including the opposition leaders, the opposition parties, and the anti-BJP voters, the voters who are against BJP, they have some thought and they have a clear idea about the leadership of Mamata Banerjee, and they are really feeling that it is Mamata Banerjee who can lead the opposition, who can unite the opposition against this particular NDA government led by
Amit
Narendra Modi.
Malviya, Mamata Banerjee at this moment is arguably the most potent opposition leader, because if you see Sharad Pawar, for example, he's in government in Maharashtra but only as 1/3 of the alliance. Arvind Kejriwal leads a very small state. There is no Congress leader with a pan-India following. And therefore, even though she is restricted politically to West Bengal, especially on the back of that big victory in the assembly elections, the Trinamool believes that Mamata Banerjee can be the most formidable opponent against Narendra Modi in 2024. Is that a scenario that rattles the BJP?
Well, Rahul, let her first get elected as an MLA in West Bengal Assembly before thinking of challenging Prime Minister Modi. But having said that, we are in a democracy and everybody is free to throw their hat in the ring. But let's take a step back. The Prime Minister of India's job is not so uninspiring that anybody can aspire for it. You need a leader who has a vision for the country, which towers over the incumbent's vision or his governance. I don't see Mamata Banerjee has covered herself in glory as far as her governance is concerned and as far as the state of affairs in West Bengal is concerned. We've seen the most horrific post-poll violence in West Bengal after these assembly elections. We've seen the worst handling of pandemic in West Bengal. Mamata Banerjee in her last 10 years does not have even a single thing to her credit as far as turning around industry, employment, education, health infrastructure in Bengal is concerned. Yes, she may have won this mandate, but the BJP is a force to reckon with in Bengal today with 2.3 crore votes and 77 seats in the Assembly of West Bengal. So we are today the biggest opposition party in Bengal and by all means the alternate pole of Bengal politics.
Rajdeep, how
now,
are
coming to the
Mamata
national
Banerjee's
scenario,
meetings in Delhi been? Is this an idea that's actively in motion of Mamata Banerjee emerging as the opposition captain, or is this just in the heads of the Trinamool leaders?
Look, Rahul, I think she's come for the first time to Delhi after a big Bengal victory. She's on a high. You know, she's got the wind behind her sails. So she clearly feels that, you know, her time in a way could well be now. However, you know, let's be very clear. One swallow doesn't make a summer. You know, winning a national election is very different to winning a state election. And we've seen this time and again. Delhi, you know, tends to sort of gravitate in the direction of whoever at that particular moment has the momentum. 2013 and Arvind Kejriwal had the momentum. Even challenged Mr. Modi in Varanasi. What happened in 2014 elections? 2018, you might recall Rahul Gandhi appeared to have the momentum when the Congress won 3 states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh. What happened in 2019 summer? So I think it is premature at this stage for either Mamata Banerjee or her supporters to position herself as the mascot who's, you know, going to take on Mr. Modi. And very interestingly, when she was asked this question, she said the next election is not Modi versus me or any leader, it's Modi versus the country. So I think she also recognizes that she can't overnight transform herself into the sole contender against Mr. Modi at this stage. I think at best, she's making an effort to somehow or the other make herself a relevant opposition leader who can take on Mr. Modi as part of a wider coalition. I didn't see enough, Rahul, today to suggest that Mamata Banerjee is the sole leader of the opposition. Far from it. I think the challenge for the opposition, in fact, is how are you going to stitch together this coalition without necessarily projecting one leader? Can you have a front without a leader, particularly in this age where Mr. Modi and his supporters tend to make every election presidential, make it Modi versus who, as they did before the 2019 election. So I think Mamata Banerjee was testing the waters, you know, rebuilding old relationships like those with Sonia Gandhi, Sharad Pawar, Arvind Kejriwal. But I think the real test in a way will come post Uttar Pradesh next year, can the opposition sustain the momentum? Mamata has given them an opening, but I still don't think that the door is open to challenge Mr. Modi at the moment with this opposition unity.
Jayanta Ghoshal, you spend more time talking to Mamata Banerjee than most journalists and editors, and you understand her mind as well. What's your sense at this moment of how Mamata Banerjee sees this Khela Hobe? Is she serious about wanting to mount a challenge against the BJP at the centre and being a leader of the opposition pack? Or is this just high voltage drama during her first visit which won't amount to anything else in the end?
Yes, Rahul, I was listening what Rajiv was analyzing. I am agreeing the take of Rajiv, but I want to add few things what I have observed in this Delhi trip very closely, that this time she is more cautious. She actually burnt her fingers when the president election drama was there in Delhi. We all remember what happened with Mulayam Singh Yadav and on the issue of Pranab Mukherjee's candidature. That time also she met Sonia Gandhi, and that was a catastrophe. This time I found her more cautious, and she is not saying that the restructuring of UPA, formation of the front, these are not the issues actually. Now, fulcrum of opposition unity, as you said, that is, she is explaining that I want to be a catalyst for the momentum, because after the West Bengal victory, there is a relevance of Mamata Banerjee has increased, but that doesn't mean that 2024 it goes without saying that Narendra Modi ji will be changed. That situation has not come yet. So now UP election is also there. Akhilesh is not ready go with Congress. Kejriwal is not ready to go with Congress. But Mamata Banerjee is understanding that there are several states like Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, where the polarization between BJP and Congress is there. If Congress cannot revive, and if Congress you cannot take on them on board, then the opposition unity, I think it cannot be a realistic proposition.
Rajat Sethi, if you look at the political makeup of India, there are 19 states and 5 union territories accounting for about 204 Lok Sabha seats, where the Congress is the principal opposition against the BJP. But if you leave those aside, in states like Jharkhand, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, there is a possibility of a Mahagathbandhan where against the BJP there is one candidate. So there were 339 such seats where the Congress has a marginal role to play, but you've got one opposition candidate against the BJP candidate. If they tried to do this in 2019, it fell apart very quickly. If between now and 2024, and that's what Prashant Kishore is pushing for as well, the opposition is able to come together in this fashion, that where the Congress is strong, it's Congress versus BJP. In other 339 seats, it's the Mahagathbandhan candidate versus the BJP. Will that then make 2024 a far tougher election for Prime Minister Modi? Rajat.
In my opinion, it's much easier said than done. The reason, primarily the reason is that in the state, these kind of mathematics can work really well. But when you look at the national level, all of these opposition parties get entangled in a classic zero-sum game. They just are not able to shed the burdens or the pulse and the pressures that come in to effectively forge a Mahagathbandhan. And the experiment was pretty aggressive even in 2019 elections, but nothing came out of it. If you look at what all went in terms of bringing them together, creating this mega structure, but most of it on the ground doesn't translate into anything meaningful.
But the difference could be, Amit Malviya, that last time they tried it, but only in a cursory fashion. Then they realized that if you don't do it this way, the BJP benefits and wins big. And, after having burned their hands the first time round, in 2024, the opposition could make a more serious play for opposition unity under the rubric of a Mahagathbandhan. It may not be perfect, but it will be more seamless than it was in 2019. Will that then make the next election tougher?
Two quick points, Rahul. First of all, Mr. Modi has redefined how electoral politics happens today in our country, particularly when it comes to prime ministerial election. He's a man who goes to the people with what he has done and what he promises to do. I don't think any other political leader in the last couple of decades has had the kind of sincerity that Mr. Modi has. Secondly, this Mahagathbandhan phase has been banded around quite a few times. And even in 2019, if you remember, in Uttar Pradesh, the Samajwadi Party and the Bahujan Samaj Party came together. Now, let's not forget, these are two parties who have a stake in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Yet the BJP won 62 seats because the people know who they want to elect when it comes to the prime ministerial stakes. They know who they want to elect if it is about the states. So I don't think these calculations really hold when you come to ground, because, you know, what can, after all, Mamata Banerjee bring to the table in Maharashtra? Or what can Sharad Pawar add to the kitty in Madhya Pradesh?
No, I'll tell you what they can. If they act in concert and in tandem, the difference that they can make is that there can be one Gathbandhan candidate in Maharashtra for all three parties, Shiv Sena, Congress, NCP, versus the BJP candidate. And given their relative local strength, if that were to happen in a state like Maharashtra, then the BJP will sweat in 2024. That's the opposition's calculation.
Well, I just said that they tried it in Uttar Pradesh in 2019 and it did not work. And let's not forget that after the 2019 election, the Samajwadi Party was reduced to a rump, whereas the BSP walked away with about 10 seats. So, you know, if they decide to commit suicide and shrink their base completely because they want to stop the BJP, then maybe there is an outside chance that something like this might work.
Are not just about arithmetic, they're also about chemistry. The moment you see Akhilesh and Mayawati are together, in 2019, we already saw what happened in Uttar Pradesh. Similarly, in Maharashtra, if the BJP were to fight against a joint candidate of the Shiv Sena, the Congress and the NCP, maybe the BJP emerges stronger because the voters, when they are voting, will get scared, saying, you know, who's going to come to power? How will they run our country? This could be a disaster in terms of all the khichdi and the infighting, and people may not like that idea.
You know, 2 or 3 points, and, you know, one of which I agree with Mr. Malviya. You know, I think he's right. You know, we saw it in Uttar Pradesh that 1 + 1 didn't make 2 when it came to the Samajwadi Party and the BSP coming together. Chemistry does matter in politics. Arithmetic also matters. In a state like Maharashtra, if you had a coalition of Shiv Sena, NCP and the Congress coming together, they're a pretty formidable coalition just in terms of the arithmetic that the three parties bring to the table.
But there the BJP's roots aren't as deep as they are in Uttar Pradesh.
Absolutely. But the main, therefore, to bridge the gap between arithmetic and chemistry, you need a narrative. What is the narrative that this coalition, if it is to come together, will bring? It's not simply, you know, we're going to put up one candidate across India to take on the BJP. You're going to have to tell us what you represent. Mr. Modi is very clear what he represents. Now, the oppositional forces are hoping that anti-incumbency will have crept in 10 years, fuel prices, COVID, all of that builds up over the next couple of years, and you can sort of encircle Mr. Modi. I think you're going to also have to give a narrative which is clear, because otherwise Mr. Modi will say this is a khichdi. As he said, you know, you were showing pictures of 2018 when H.D. Kumaraswamy was chosen as the Karnataka Chief Minister. All these leaders came together. What happened in the end? I think you need something more. No, when these leaders came in 1977, during the Janata Party years, they had a clear narrative of very singularly targeting Indira Gandhi and her emergency. Now what it seems, and that's where I got an inkling from what Mamata said in that press conference today, it's Modi versus the country. That the people are angry and restive, she believes, or she would like to believe.
No, but you have to be out on the ground.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think, if I may say so, the elephant in the room, which you've not looked at the moment, is the Congress party.
The Congress was invited for this show. They decided to stay away because they don't know what to make of this question.
Look, the fact is, you mentioned about 204 seats. My analysis is about 180 to 190 seats in 2019 had a one-on-one battle between the Congress and the BJP. The BJP won over 175 of them by an average margin of 16 to 17%. So, unless the Congress revives, unless the Congress recovers, and that's why Prashant Kishore's name is coming, that he will play that role of trying to...
Has that reached anywhere?
I'm told that that's, you know, while Mamata Banerjee herself is looking at Tripura as her next sort of, you know, where she once also attempted a few years ago to sort of become the government, Prashant Kishore could play that role. We don't know how far that's gone. But unless the Congress recovers, how are you going to build this nationwide coalition when there is a hole in these 200 seats or 180 seats? So that's not happened, and therefore Mamata Banerjee is...
No, but I'll tell you why it's still a potent idea. So think of it like hockey. You know, in the 200 seats where it's Congress versus BJP, pardon me saying, so it's a bit like India-Australia. So you know that here India is weak and Australia is going to win 7-1 or whatever the scoreline is, but in those seats they'll do well. In the other 339 seats where again the opposition vote got split, if there is one Gathbandhan candidate, it does make the BJP sweat because they are strongest when they are fighting the Congress. It is tougher for them when they are fighting the likes of Mamata Banerjee.
No, but please tell me how practical terms. Give me a state, I'll give you an example of a state like Telangana. Are you telling me that the TRS will vacate space to the Congress or the Congress will vacate space to the TRS?
Absolutely not.
It's not going to happen. Why will the Congress vacate space to the TRS? There are many such states where individual parties will not so easily vacate to the other states. In Odisha, is a Naveen Patnaik going to come overnight and say, okay, you know...
now that, Bishwajit Deb, is the problem with this idea. Whether it is Telangana, whether it is Andhra or it's Orissa, you know, this idea looks good when all those leaders are on one stage after Deve Gowda was sworn in, but in practicality, you will want, the Congress will want candidates in Odisha, they'll want candidates in Telangana, and that essentially means this whole idea of the Mahagathbandhan versus Modi is not going to fly. You know, you've got an aeroplane which is on the tarmac, but it's not going to take off.
No, Aam Aadmi Party, Rahul.
All of them.
Aam Aadmi Party, will it vacate space for the Congress or vice versa?
Well, you see, I was hearing, I was hearing this arithmetic and chemistry all along. But I would say, I would like to specifically say that forget about arithmetic and chemistry. The people of India, they are ready to get a government alternate to Narendra Modi. They are ready to remove this autocratic government.
No, that's what you think.
They are ready to remove.
Sir, that's what you're saying. But unless there is mass mobilization, unless the opposition is hitting the streets, amplifying the opposition's agenda, it can't happen by photo opportunities and opposition leaders like Rahul Gandhi tweeting. You have to be on the ground trying to build an atmosphere against the government.
Let me finish. Well, Rahul, let me finish. Let me finish. Now the atmosphere is, you can understand the excitement in Delhi centering Mamata Banerjee, the opposition excitement centering Mamata Banerjee. You can understand after 2021. And this is 2024 we are looking for. And definitely it will be an opposition unity. Mamata Banerjee has categorically mentioned today that forget about who is the leader. We want a unity. And the people of the country, they are ready. They are ready to see that there is an alternative government. There is a government which is not led by BJP.
No, Jayanta Ghoshal, to say we want to see unity is very different from being able to achieve unity. Whether it is Delhi, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Odisha or any of these states,
unity will work out.
Sir, how will it happen? Jayanta Ghoshal, in practical terms.
I would like to ask him a simple, what about the left? Sir, Bishwajit ji, what is your relationship with the left? Will you have Mr. Sitaram Yechuri on the same platform as a Mamata Banerjee? Let's get down to brass tacks. Is Arvind Kejriwal going to share a platform with Rahul Gandhi? Or vice versa?
Again, I'm repeating. It is compulsion. It is the compulsion to remove this government led by Narendra Modi. We have to.
No, so it may be your compulsion. No, but Jayanta Ghoshal, just going to people and saying, I don't like the face of Narendra Modi is not enough to beat the Prime Minister and the BJP. You have to have an alternate idea of India, which the voters of India find compelling and credible. Unless you can do this, you can keep shouting on television screens, tweeting away on your social media handles, it will not amount to very much.
Yeah.
Jayanto?
Actually, this is a process has started. Yeah. Now, I'm telling you, Rahul, that Mamata Banerjee is trying to develop a long-term strategy on this, because 2024 is not tomorrow.
No, what's her strategy? Okay, what's her strategy?
The first thing that no, but the strategy is the chemistry should be met, because without the mutual exchange of notes, there will be a lot of plans, that common minimum program, there should be a front, there will be new restructuring of UPA. Even Sonia Gandhi is ready to quit from the UPA chairperson. Now they are suggesting, the Congress leaders, they are suggesting to take Mamata as UPA chairperson or convener. Sharad Pawar also can come. But Mamata has suggested, I am giving you the information also, that she is not ready to restructuring the UPA immediately. She is saying everything will be sorted out after UP election. Now more important, what we are discussing, that the Kejriwal Congress, there is a jhagda. Akhilesh is not ready to accept Congress. So Mamata Banerjee now is focusing to be a catalyst of mutual exchange of notes. The state politics will remain in the state politics. Mamata Banerjee also faced a lot of problem with Congress in West Bengal election. Abdul Mannan, Adhir Chaudhuri, the leader of the opposition and the Congress party president, they went with the CPM and the Siddiqui's party. But now it is everything is a baggage of history. Now in the future, now they want to make the chemistry first, that there is a anti-incumbency of Modi government also. It's a law of nature. Why we should not take the opportunity? So now the campaign will be Modi versus rest of the country. It's a country versus Modi. So she is now trying to reach out to the whole country, different states, irrespective of the community creed. And now she will go to UP for campaign. It's not the seat adjustment, alliance,
Amit
front,
Malviya, the opposition's big hope could be that the level of anti-incumbency against the BJP 10 years after Prime Minister Modi came to power could be more than the level of anti-incumbency after 5 years of the BJP government being in power. That time you had Balakot and that gave you some, tailwinds. But 2024 could be different because the government would have been in power for 10 full years by then.
Well, Rahul, first of all, Sonia Gandhi, who has presided over the destruction of the Congress party to ensure that her son's primacy remains, you think she's going to squander away that space to Mamata Banerjee? Do you think this is really possible? Do you think Mamata Banerjee will do seat adjustment with the left in the Congress in West Bengal? Because if she doesn't get a big chunk from West Bengal, who will actually take her seriously? Sharad Pawar has been the Prime Minister in waiting forever. You think the NCP will concede space to Mamata Banerjee? And what campaign impact will Mamata Banerjee make if she goes to Uttar Pradesh or for that matter Andhra Pradesh? Let's get realistic about it. The second point that you are making about anti-incumbency against Prime Minister Modi, I think Mr. Modi, after having been in office for as long as he has been, his popularity ratings haven't dipped one bit. He's in fact today one of the most popular leaders, not just in the country, but across the world. So the opposition may have in its head imagined idea of people grieving and wanting to replace this government, but that's far from truth. And Mr. Modi, I repeat again, is a very, very sensitive political leader. He looks at this country not just as an electoral contest, but a country that he wants to build.
Okay,
and those efforts
so let's build on the point that Amit Malviya is making, Rajdeep. Let's take, for example, what the TMC spokesperson said. He says Mamata Banerjee will go and campaign probably for Akhilesh Yadav in Uttar Pradesh. What difference will it make if she goes to Telangana and campaigns over there? She's not a Modi who can go and have some impact on the elections that are happening in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Uttar Pradesh, or can she?
I would rather doubt it. Look, I think the main point we've got to understand is the disjunction between state elections and national elections. The BJP, excluding Bengal, has come down by about 16.5% on an average in elections held post-2019. So therefore, when Mr. Modi is not on the ticket, clearly the BJP is vulnerable.
This is about 2024.
But if he's in 2024 on the ticket, then defeating him is not as easy as winning West Bengal turned out to be in the end for a Mamata Banerjee or for a KCR to win Telangana, because they are rooted in that particular region. When they go out of that region, there is no guarantee. In fact, there is every evidence to show it's very difficult for them to increase their popularity or to lift a potential ally. That's not, Sharad Pawar, for example, all of them are regional satraps rooted in their regional area. So their best hope is, can they make this election more fragmented? Can they localize the election and claim that we are going to fight it over 543 constituencies? Mr. Modi, on the other hand, will make this prime ministerial. He will foreground leadership. So, the two sides are, so the hope that they can have is, as was in the 1990s, do we fragment an Indian election? It's much more difficult in this multimedia age,
but
because
in the 90s there
are
was
able to make it quasi-presidential.
Not just that, in the 90s there was no towering national personality like Narendra Modi.
Well, there was Atal Bihari Vajpayee, was an extremely popular leader.
Never
but
as
I think
deep, the penetration was never as deep as Prime Minister Modi enjoyed.
Please appreciate, just as the Congress's weakness, the one caveat I will add, just as the Congress's weakness is these 200 seats where they were in direct contest in the BJP. Remember, most of the BJP seats come from the north and west of the country. Now, we don't know in the next 2-3 years how politics plays out in this region. I will give Maharashtra as an example, the second largest state with 48 seats. I believe any coalition to succeed has to win Maharashtra, right? So out of those 48 seats, the Shiv Sena Congress NCP coalition is a powerful force for the BJP, where as you said, the BJP is not as strong as it is possibly today in Uttar Pradesh. So I think slowly gaps tend to open up. The question is the opposition good enough? You made a very important point. Is it credible? And can it actually go on the ground and go beyond just these meetings that take place on Twitter activism?
But the other point to consider, Rajat Sethi, since we are looking forward, looking into the future about what may happen, is that if in Maharashtra Sena, Congress, NCP fight together against the BJP will win fewer than it would have won otherwise. Similarly, in Bihar, if the opposition fights together, there is a tougher fight as there would be in other states. Then the BJP may not be able to get 300 odd seats. Narendra Modi as Prime Minister with 200 seats is very different from Narendra Modi as Prime Minister with 300 plus seats. So it may not alter who wins, but it could alter the score line and alter the kind of government then that Narendra Modi is able to run.
Rahul, if you were to rewind the kind of discussions that were going on India today around 2019, early January, after Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Rajasthan elections, these were the exact same things that you were suggesting.
True.
These were the exact same logics that were being made. But it is very easy to form a government on a piece of paper. You can start doing mathematics and you will suddenly see that, Maharashtra, 3 parties coming together will suddenly result in 36 seats out of 48 going to the opposition. It doesn't work like that. There is much more levels of complexities to that. There are so many people out there, people who are regional satraps. How do you accommodate that when you have a couple of them? You can't bring them all under one fold and you cannot give everybody tickets. They are going to play spoilers, even if this Mahagathbandhan doesn't give them the ticket. So there is much more to elections than what it seems like from a distant studio. That is point number one. Point number two that Rajdeep was raising was around narrative. Had Mamata Banerjee had been given some solid piece of advice, she would have at least worked on creating what a Bengal model looks like. All of the challengers, be it Sonia Gandhi or Narendra Modi, left their bastions and went out in a distant part of the country to contest and prove a point that they are a national leader. Sonia Gandhi went to Bellary to win. When Narendra Modi went to Varanasi, and he, changed the entire electoral arithmetic and chemistry because of that.
Okay.
Where will Mamata Banerjee go if she can't even win her own backyard and MLA-ship, as Amit Malviyaji was pointing out? Where will she go? Will she go to Kanpur, to Lucknow to win an election? I doubt that. I doubt she'll even get 4,000-5,000 votes. So that's the reality. Today, she should be focusing on Bengal model, and instead of that, she's wasting time in Delhi.
Okay, Bishwaji Dev, respond to that. Just wasting the time of the voters of West Bengal. You won a big election. First, try and build the West Bengal model rather than trying to do Khela Hobe all across the country.
Yes, we will do Khela Hobe all over the country. We are waiting for 2024. And I would like to reply that try to read the minds of the people. Don't calculate on piece of paper. No arithmetic and no chemistry will work. It is the people who have suffered a lot. It is the people of the country who have suffered a lot due to COVID, due to shortage of vaccine, due to unemployment. So it is 2024 when the opposition will unite, and no doubt the face and the excitement is always now centering around Mamata Banerjee. They are all looking for the leadership of Mamata Banerjee, because you could understand the body language of the opposition after she reached Delhi. The way the opposition
I can see you are very charged up, but I must tell you that the Congress didn't even come for this show. The Congress was earlier supposed to come for this show. They didn't even come for a panel discussion on the conversation. Forget trying to actually have a national realignment or alliance national.
That may be due to some personal difficulties. But try to understand that each and every national leader, they have met her, and they are really looking forward to see something of a Bengal model in 2024. The magic which has worked under her leadership in Bengal.
You know, the difference, Amit Malviya, is that before West Bengal and after 2019, the opposition was despondent. They'd kind of thrown in the towel. They'd come to the conclusion that the BJP under Modi was too big and too strong and difficult to vanquish. From what Bishwajit Deb is saying, and those who are opposition-leaning voices, they now believe they're in with a chance. And you know, the belief that you could win very often gets you and spurs you to do more than otherwise. If you think you're losing, you're more likely to lose bigger than you would have thought. If you think you can win, you are likely to try that little bit extra to turn a tough victory into a possible victory, a tough battle into a possible victory, and that's the difference. The opposition now believes that they have a window and they can try and jump in.
Look, Rahul, if they are going to make these assessments based on the Bengal results, then let me remind them that we rose from 3 seats to 77. We have 2.3 crore votes in Bengal. And since 1994, no other party has won as many seats in opposition as we have. So clearly the BJP from 17% has gone all the way up to 39%. It would be foolhardy for the opposition to believe that Bengal has given them a leg in and the BJP is a weaker party now. Of course, we are far more stronger in Bengal than we were ever. Having said that, Mamata Banerjee can afford to be delusional. The fact is that she still has to win an MLA seat to remain as the chief minister, and that fact should not be lost on her. As far as the opposition unity is concerned, let me remind you, she's been in Delhi last couple of days and she came a few days back. No opposition leader even thought it appropriate to sit through her speech. Today in the parliament, on the floor of the house, where Rahul Gandhi and other Congress leaders were supposedly seen in control, the TMC member of parliament from Rajya Sabha did not even participate.
Now, those are good points, Rajdeep. The Congress didn't come for this show where we are talking about Mamata being national fulcrum of the opposition. The TMC didn't go for that Rahul Gandhi pitch. There is a clear fight. Unless you accept either Mamata Banerjee's captaincy or Rahul Gandhi's captaincy, you cannot come together. You can't come together for a TV show. How will you come together in a real election?
Look, there I will give the opposition a break to say that, and I have agreed with most of the points that my friend Amit Malviya has made on this program, but I think this is first day, first show. Look, there are going to be issues. You don't want to sit on the same table with an Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary who was your opponent in Bengal. These are all niggling issues. These can all be sorted out. First, you need a narrative. Is your narrative, from what I can see on the program, only anti-Modi? Modi ko hatao. You see, Modi hatao cannot be your only narrative to win a national election. That's what I think they should have learned by now. They're going to have to provide a possible Bengal model or a possible localized model, a more rooted model. Give an alternative manifesto on critical issues.
No, but
where you believe
you're
the
saying
Modi
Bengal model. You ask somebody in UP, would you like UP to be like Bengal? He'll say absolutely not. To some extent in 2014, people in UP said, yes, we want UP to be like Gujarat, because people from UP who are working in Gujarat came back and told them that great things were happening there.
Look,
they became unofficial brand ambassadors for candidate Modi.
Mr. Modi is a wonderful political communicator, and he was able to sell the Gujarat model and thereby make the leap from chief minister to prime minister. But also he had the support of a large cadre of the RSS. He had the anti-incumbency mood which was building against the Manmohan Singh government. He was there at the right place at the right time in 2014. We don't know what will happen in this country in the next 2.5 years. You and I could be back here in April after the Uttar Pradesh election. The BJP sweeps the election and we'll, be already talking about, Modi 3.0. On the other hand, we could have a fragmented election in Uttar Pradesh, and then this entire process gets more momentum because you'll have a presidential election for the Rashtrapati in July where the opposition suddenly may have the numbers.
But remember,
in Indian politics, I am very reluctant to look too far into the future. Therefore, I think this has to be a step-by-step process, and I think Jayanto made an important point that I think Mamata also has realized this time, that this cannot be a first day, first show, big bang. This has to be gradual.
But remember, beating BJP in West Bengal, where they were making an audacious bid for power, is very different from beating the BJP in the 2022 Uttar Pradesh elections, where the party and the Sangh's roots are far deeper, far firmer. This is a fascinating political contest, and as far as debates and discussions go, Rajdeep, and I love that, but turning this debate into political reality is much tougher than anything you would have seen on TV. And whether they can do that and whether this opposition plane can fly or it will just stay on the opposition tarmac, we will track very closely. For the time being, Bishwajit Deb, Amit Malviya, Rajat Sethi, Jayanto Ghoshal and Rajdeep Sardesai, thank you very much for joining us. We're slipping into a break. When we come back on the other side,